Hi there, I'm Dana Peters-Colley. Good morning. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Last week I gave you a pretty big prophetic word that the Lord had released for me. And one of the words that he used in that time was the word reign, R-E-I-G-N. That word set me on a quest to begin thinking about being kings and priests, that's what we're called to. And in Revelation 1, 5, and 6, the Apostle John describes us that he says that Jesus Christ is the Prince of the kings of the earth. He has made us kings and priests unto God his Father. So some of us have literally stepped into our full kingship. But I want you to take your mind and not think about kings as in the King of England, as we've just recently received upon his mother, the Queen's death. But we're thinking about us being kings and priests. And actually the Lord, in a city that I live in Franklin, Tennessee, at one point the Lord said to me, kings of Franklin. And so I began recognizing that I was surrounded by some people that he had given kingship to, that they had been given, they had stewarded and they had gotten increase and they had gotten more to steward over. And they were very blessed, some of them in the millions, double-digit millions of dollars. So, I watched and befriended and have watched this play out of God having some people that he has assigned kingship to. We can be kings in business. We can be kings in our families. So let's take a look at this, but I'm going to do a Bible study on this. It may become a book, so I've started writing about kings, about the study of kings, in order to understand and be approved by God, in order to step into greater rulership and anointing to be able to handle and have more. So I'm starting this study. I expect to find some really interesting things that are going to unpack in the Bible, because there's mysteries to find here, and I hope you'll come along with me as I do this. And eventually there'll be a lot meatier stuff in the book that I share. But here we are, and so I want to begin with 1 Kings 1 and 2. Now at this point in time, David is very old, and so he's bedridden, and they send a young virgin, a maiden, to actually warm him, to lay with him and warm him. And remember, this was long before heated blankets. I'm making a joke about it because I found this really offensive. As a woman, a modern woman, we just don't do these kinds of things in our culture, so I wondered about it. But as I went on, I'm going to take you through what happened, and then we're going to discuss how this door opened and what that meant. So, Adonijah, who was one of King David's sons, at this point of David, the king being fragile, Adonijah moved into wanting to exalt himself, and even said, "I will be king." So David then had planned for his son Solomon to become king. So Adonijah had some people circled around him, but he didn't have the approval of the prophets, of Nathan as a prophet, and there was another prophet that did not approve this for him to do this, as well as some of David's mighty men. So Nathan went to Bathsheba and told her what Adonijah was doing, and so then she went before King David and stated to him, "Did you not say Solomon would be king?" So then David quickly made Solomon king. And then Adonijah became very fearful and grabbed the altar to try to not be, he knew he should be killed for trying to take matters into his own hands. So I think that's one thing to look at in becoming a king, is that God is the one that gives you where he wants you to be. Jesus, we're led by Jesus, and Jesus is going to rightly fit us and position us where he knows we can excel and do well. Sometimes the things we want in our flesh may not be what God has for us, and so we've got to be following that and be rightly fit. The second part of this is in John 3:6. Jesus says, "That which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the Spirit is spirit." So Adonijah took matters into his own hands. So he was doing something, I've always heard people make that statement about whatever you birth in the flesh, you've got to hold up in the flesh. So you won't feel right about it if you're trying to do something that you're not really equipped to do. You'll have giftings to do what God's got you to do and rule over. And so you'll sense your authority there. And that's a way to kind of understand and know when the times are that you should have something, when you don't. I can give you kind of a couple examples for myself. At one point, after 20 years, I went and did something and wanted to step into something, and got to do it, got to experience the joy of how fun it was and what to do. But afterwards, I didn't feel as though that was where my assignment was. So I stepped back, and the other person continued to do it. And so that was just an amazing thing. Another time, though, many years ago, 25 years ago, I worked at a big studio in Hollywood and worked in theme parks, and was able to actually be promoted. And by the end of the project, I took it over and was able to manage, $10 million. So I was very equipped, knew what to do, and was in a right assignment at that point in time. So you can see that when you follow and listen to what God has for you, he'll bring that level of rulership at the level you're supposed to maintain. So my level was at a management level, not at the leader of the whole thing level. So I may have managed $10 million, but my project manager, he managed $500 million. So, you get to a comfort level of where you are and know your right position. That's important for us to do that as kings in kingship, rulership. But moving on to Adonijah, so Solomon spared his brother, but he stated to him, be worthy, don't make any mistakes against me again. And let's go back to David. So David had taken in, now they had done it around him, but he could have said no. So David actually brought in what we would call in our culture, dangling a carrot before you. So David would have never wanted another one. He had already lost one of his sons who tried to take the kingdom. So David would have never wanted another one of his sons to have been killed for his bad decisions at trying to become king. Solomon spared his half-brother, but warned his half-brother. And so you can see where sin will open doors to allow the enemy in. And that was actually what the Lord just showed me today. That if David would have turned down the young virgin, that he never knew her, so he didn't have relations with her. But if he would have said, no, I'll be fine, and not have stepped into that temptation, The possibility would have been that maybe Adonijah would not have pursued it. Because what Adonijah did after he was spared by Solomon the king is that he went back to Bathsheba and requested that she ask Solomon if he could have that virgin to become his wife. He still wanted what his father had. He still wanted to be with the person that was the last person to be near and close to David in the physical sense. He didn't know her, but he was close to her. And so he still wanted what his father had. And if David possibly would have turned down that temptation, then possibly it wouldn't have put into motion the fact that then he was not spared and had to be removed because he was still lusting after what David had. I don't know, we all don't know how it could have played out then. But I think the bigger points then for us to look at for reigning, for being in leadership, is to not take anything that's offered to you, even in your latter years. Don't take what could harm you. Stay inside God's boundaries. God's boundaries are different than man's boundaries. And things are allowed to go on, but you can see how they lead to bad things happening. So I want to leave you with that today as we think about reigning and as we think about being these kings and priests of God on the earth. For we are created for great responsibility to follow God and to follow all that he has for us. So I pray that you're blessed today as you consider that you are a king of God before Jesus Christ. And you also take into consideration that Jesus is over you. So in rulership, he is the King of kings and Lord of lords. And then we're each given a different assignment here to become kings and priests in the earth. Be blessed, my friends.